Welcome back to Love and Fandom. Stranger Things is what we're talking about today, and this is a request from the incredible Luana, who requested this on Tumblr quite a while ago, and I apologise, Luana, it's taken me ages, but we're here and we're going to talk about it. It's about Stranger Things Season 1, which I know was a long time ago. I'm very behind, I am aware of it. So don't tell me what happens in Seasons 2 or 3 or 4, which I believe is coming out soon. I will have to catch up. But Luana did request Season 1, specifically looking at episodes 4 and episode 6, looking at our relationship to grief and just generally getting my take on this. So I've developed 5 life lessons from Season 1 of Stranger Things, and we're going to dive right in. But before we do, if this is your first time here, welcome to Love and Fandom, where we believe the relationships we see on the screen help us to understand ourselves at a deeper level and have a better relationship with each other. So this is not just about psychoanalyzing these characters or these stories for the sake of it. It's about really understanding ourselves and using this on-screen story that we're seeing to use it as a tool for personal development. And if you haven't met me before, I'm Cheryl Muir, and I am a coach, counselor, relationship person, and I help people with their relationships. If you like the way that I explain things, you can see the details of the self-study courses I have down below. I have 10 self-study courses about communication, boundaries, regulating your emotions, healing the mother wound, healing the father wound, falling in love, all of that good stuff. So the info is down below. Let's crack on. Let's get into this. So the first lesson that I'd like to look at from Season 1 of Stranger Things is the relationship we have to grief. What I find really, really interesting about Winona Ryder's character, and I have to apologise, I don't know all the characters' names. I watched it a couple of weeks ago and I've forgotten all the details of the characters' names, so please bear with me. So what's really interesting about Will's mum, Winona Ryder's character, is that when she's in grief, particularly when it gets to episodes 4 and 5, she's in such a state of grief that she sees things that other people cannot see. Obviously, what she's seeing is the upside down, which is a real alternate dimension which nobody else has access to at that time. Everyone thinks she's going mad, and of course she isn't. What she can see is real. Will is there. Now, what I thought about when I was seeing this, or what I thought about after I've had time to think about it, is that when we're in a state of grief, when we're grieving something, whether it's the loss of someone who's passed away, obviously the Queen's just died recently, state funeral was yesterday, that might bring up in many of us reminders of people that we've lost. Whether we're grieving someone who has physically passed away, or whether we're grieving the loss of something else, maybe we're grieving the loss of a relationship, right? We're trying to heal from the heartbreak of that relationship. Maybe we're grieving the loss of something else in our lives. It might have been a career, and we're changing our careers now, or there's some kind of tower moment, you know, like the tower moment in tarot, where everything in your life falls apart and you've got to grieve the loss of all of those things. What grief does is it puts us in an altered state, and the things that we see when we're in grief we're able to see things that we can't see at other times. Now, that doesn't mean we see the upside down necessarily, but we see parts of ourself, part of our psyche, part of our, some may say, shadow, that we can't see when we're in a higher state of happiness, joy, gratitude, and so on. So when we are in those states of grieving, it is such a hard thing to go through, but as we're feeling it, as we're healing through it, we can see things that we can't see at other times. Like, for example, if we're grieving from a romantic relationship that's ended, or a friendship that's ended, that can be really, really hard. We can see our pain. We can see our self-doubt. We can see our self-worth issues. And all of our stuff starts to kind of rise to the surface. It's almost like what grief does is it's like shaking a Coke bottle, a fizzy drink bottle. Grief shakes it up, and all those emotions, everything rises to the surface, and we have to let it out. If we don't let it out, if we're trying to stuff it down, it's going to explode in some other way. So when we're grieving the loss of something, we have an opportunity to see those parts of us, those slightly darker parts of ourselves that aren't accessible at any other time. And that's why it can be a real portal, if you like, to stay with the Stranger Things wording and imagery. It can be a portal to a part of our psyche, a part of our emotional world, a part of our shadow that we can't see otherwise. So that is what I want to say about grief. The second thing is, it reminded me of our relationship to the unseen and the supernatural. as I said, Winona Ryder's character, she's seen as being, she's in so much grief that people think she's started to lose her mind. Now, what Hopper starts to do, Russian Captain America from Black Widow, what Russian Captain America starts to do, ever the hero in every area of the multiverse, he explores this. He explores this because he knows what it's like to lose a child. So he is the hero. Incidentally, there are not many hero archetypes that we have in our world. And so this archetype of the male hero who is protecting, providing, getting answers, who's being a maverick, who's going against these very, dark, shadowy, authoritative figures, this government agency that's doing all the bad shit. He's going against them. He's very heroic in that moment. We're really hungry for the hero archetype in our society, so it's great to see it in this series and see this modeled in a way that seems very real. He's not your typical hero, just as he was playing kind of an alternative hero in Black Widow as well. He's not your typical shiny, chiseled jaw, perfect hero, but he's the hero that's needed in this story, in this community. And he goes to Winona Ryder's character and says, "You're right, I've found evidence that you're right." So the reason this reminds me of our relationship to the unseen and the supernatural is that there are people that can see things that we can't see. There are people that can experience things that we haven't experienced yet. It reminds me of the experience of shifting, for example. There's two different parts of shifting. You can shift to alternate realities. You can shift to Hogwarts, the MCU, whatever fictional universe you want to shift to. That is possible. That is a real thing that can happen. I have some theories energetically as to why that is possible, but we won't go into it today. Let me know in the comments if you do want me to go deeper into shifting. I find it fascinating from a quantum perspective. But the second aspect of shifting is not shifting to escape this reality, but shifting to create a new reality here. And we do that with our actions, we do that with our beliefs. When we talk about actions and beliefs and realities, it feels a little bit intangible and a bit woo-woo. But actually looking at it from the cognitive behavioral therapy point of view, and the cycle of anxiety is another model as well, everything we do, every action that we take starts with our thoughts. And we know that a belief is a thought that's repeated. So we repeat that thought, it becomes a belief, and then that impacts what we do. So, for example, in one of the cycles, in the anxiety cycle, you might be thinking, oh my God, people think I'm awful. So you walk into, the gym or a social situation and you're thinking, oh my God, people think I'm awful. And you have this overwhelming feeling of fear, stress, you feel really self-conscious. And from that feeling, you have physical sensations. You might feel a little bit shaky or, feel really on edge, and your body language changes. Your body language is closed off. And then from that space, so we go from thoughts and beliefs, then we go to feelings. The feelings give you a physical sensation, and then finally that impacts your actions. So what actions will you take if you're walking into a space where you're thinking, feeling, believing, and your body is saying, no one likes me, no one wants to approach me, no one wants to talk to me? What actions will you take from that place? You will be interpreting everything through that lens of no one wants to speak to me. If you can start with the belief of, there might be some people that don't like me, but actually I'm a really good person. And there are people that really enjoy my company. So I'm going to walk into this event. I'm going to walk into this place, this social occasion, the gym, college, uni, whatever it might be for you, work. I'm going to walk into this place with my head held high because I know I'm a good person. I know I have real value to give here. From that place, the feelings that you have, the emotions that you have will be ones of expansion, of confidence. From there, your posture will be more open. Your body language will be more open. You'll be, smiling more, and you'll be interacting more with other people. So everything does start with a belief, and that is a really long, convoluted way of explaining another form of shifting to you. It starts with your belief. So I don't want you to think that when you shift to a new version of your life, it's not like magic. It's not like magic that you believe something and then it happens. I think there's some really, really shady stuff out there about the law of assumption. It's so much more complicated than people make it out to be, especially if you had a very difficult start in life and you have a history of trauma. The law of assumption is something I would really guide you away from. But the reality is what you believe influences the emotions that you have, the physical sensations in your body, and then the actions you take as a result of that. So I'm kind of coming at that from a CBT perspective. What was my point with that? We're on point number 2, which is about the unseen and the supernatural. And I think my point there was to talk about shifting and what shifting can be in a very real, grounded way. In terms of the unseen and the supernatural, just start to have a think about what your relationship is to things that are unseen, things that you can see, but things that can be proven, things like energy. I have a, I can't remember what you call it, where the hell is it? Oh, it's here. Pendulum. Energy is real. Get one of these, and I'm not going to demonstrate it because I really want you to get one of these. It's a crystal. You can ask it. In fact, let's do a little demo while we're on live now. So you can see how energy reacts, because I can say to it, pendulum, okay, I'll try and show you on the side. Pendulum, show me a yes. Pendulum, show me a no. So I had my eyes closed, but I'm pretty sure when I say yes is usually a swing and no is usually a circle. But what you can do with this is you can start to think and feel different things, have different thoughts and different emotions, and just see what happens to this. And that proves that energy is something that is very, very real and not just some woo-woo thing. But even if it was, it's certainly true that how we feel impacts what we do. But just start to have a think about things like that, things that feel a little bit, oh, that's a bit intangible. I'm not really sure about that. I'm interested in that, but I'm not sure if it can be proven. There are always ways to prove things that are unseen. And we don't know it all. We don't know it all. Just because we are humans and we have technology doesn't mean that our technology is so advanced that we can prove the existence of absolutely everything out there. Like with shifting to different realities, we can't prove what that is, why that happens, we don't know. But those of you that have experienced it know that it's some crazy shit. So just start to have a look at your relationship with things that are unseen, some things that are a little bit more supernatural. Have a think about that. Be very careful as well if you're dealing with energies. You don't want to open up to energies that are darker in nature. So be very careful and do protect yourself and do your research. Point 3. Stranger Things Season 1 reminded me of our relationship to fear and to terror. The Demogorgon seemed like this representation of terror. It seemed like the personification of terror. This thing that represented, in some fan theories, represents Eleven's darker side of her psyche. It's a manifestation of the dark side of her psyche. I think that's a really interesting take and a theory that I want to get behind. I think that is a great way to see it. But just start to have a look at the things that you're really afraid of and you're really terrified of. It does put us in a completely different state when we're in fear and when we're in terror and we can't see things clearly. So that's what I have to say about the Demogorgon. I think it is a representation of terror. There's some kind of fear that's going on in this community, and it's kind of manifested this monster. It reminds me a bit of, did any of you see the Essex Serpent? It reminds me a bit of that, where there's this feeling in the community of there's this thing that's out there that's going to get us, but it's everyone's fear that's making people see things that are not there. They're seeing a ripple in the water and they're going, oh, it's the monster. Whereas if you didn't believe in the existence of a monster, maybe you wouldn't see that, maybe you'd just see the water. So what we think, feel and believe can impact what we see. There's a lot to think about here. So point number 4, authority. Our relationship to authority. Do we believe that the people who are leading us and in charge of us, do we think they are the best people for the job? Do we trust them? Do we think they have our well-being at heart? Are they doing the thing that's best for us, the people, or are they doing the thing that's best for them? There's been quite the stir in England over the Queen's passing. In England, the highest form of crime is jumping a queue. Really, there's murder and then there's queue jumping. You know, queue jumping is the worst crime. And there were 2 television personalities who jumped in the line to see the Queen's casket, and other people were waiting in line for 12 hours, 16 hours, and so on. So with that, we start to think about, authority and people who are in positions of authority. Are they using it well? Are they using it to help the people, or are they using it to serve themselves? It's something to start to think about, because that is really going to start to change in our world. It has changed a lot over the past 2 years. We have been in a period of time where we've been able to see who the real leaders are and who's stepping up and who's helping and who really is not. And we're going to start to see it, I believe, over the next couple of years as well. Old systems are falling and crashing down. And it's kind of like, will the real leaders please stand up? That's what's happening. The old model of, even in my industry, in personal development, there's a lot of people that are being exposed as being not trustworthy. I've been someone that's been in the industry for about 8 years now, and I've always remained kind of on the outside of it, and I'm a little bit more connected to kind of content creators and writers and people in film and TV now. I feel a bit more at home with those people. Not to say there's not shit happening in entertainment industries as well, but certainly in personal development there is this exposing of authority figures that's happening, and it reminds me of that. In Stranger Things season 1, we're seeing that the government agency there is not to be trusted. They're covering things up. They covered up the death of a boy, the disappearance of a boy who was still living and needed help. He needed help, and they covered it up and made it seem like he was gone, when in fact he wasn't. They tried to cover that up. Very disturbing scene in the morgue, by the way, with Hopper. He had a good inkling that was a dummy, but that's a risk to take, isn't it? That is a risk to take, and that was a really visceral scene. I felt that when I was watching it. It was physically very, very hard to watch. Do we think authority, has our best interests at heart always? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You decide. 5, childhood and nostalgia. So what's your relationship to your childhood? When you think about when you grew up and where you grew up, what are your fondest memories? And what are some of the not so fond memories that maybe need to be looked at and addressed? Because it's both. It's both. And both things can be true at the same time. It can be true that you had some really beautiful memories in your childhood and everyone around you was doing their best, and there might be some things that happened that were actually really difficult and that led to some patterns that are playing out in your life now. So it's really important that anytime we're on a journey of personal development, that we also go back. A lot of the time in coaching we're looking forward. We're looking, where are you now and where do you want to be? And that's what a lot of coaches do. But because I'm a coach and a counsellor, I kind of hop between timelines. Where are you now and where do you want to be? And what's stopping you from getting there also often involves going back. So if you're looking for a relationship, what are the patterns that are playing out in your reality right now? What have you historically been doing over and over again? What's the pattern? What's repeatedly happening? Where is it you want to be? What kind of partner do you want to have? And let's get curious about where some of those patterns came from. Let's go back briefly. Let's connect the dots. Let's connect them backwards, then let's connect them forwards. It's really, really important anytime you want to grow that we do look back to childhood. And, under point number 5 as well, just this connection on a slightly lighter note, this connection of nostalgia. I don't quite know how to define nostalgia. I'm sure somebody who's an academic who studies this could give us a really good definition of it. But watching Stranger Things as someone who was born in the 80s, yes, I was, a very long time ago. I'm sure some of you were not born then. I'm sure you were not here yet. The 80s was a great time, and it's a time when there was some late 80s, early 90s, there were some films that were so iconic, like E.T. and Back to the Future, a lot of the Steven Spielberg films. It was a really, really iconic time, and I feel very nostalgic when watching Stranger Things. It reminds me of the shows filmed in that time. It was filmed in that style, and I love to see that. It made me feel very, very yearning for the 1980s. It was what time to be alive. Bonus points. So there are 5 points, which are grief, the unseen and the supernatural, fear and terror, authority, childhood and nostalgia, and then we have a bonus point, which is our relationship to streaming services and to fandom. So something I noticed when I watched season 1 is I was meant to be watching episodes 4 and episode 6 because Luana said they were going to be the episodes that were really most related to grief, because I said, I don't know if I can watch the full season. Anyway, I did, and I watched it in a day. I couldn't stop watching it. That's on me, right? But what it brought to light was how these shows are so brilliantly done, and they are designed to keep our attention. The nature of these shows is to keep our attention, to keep us watching. If we're continuing to watch, then they're doing their job. But it can be very, very difficult when you're watching a show like that to stop at the end. A place we can stop is in the middle, which is what I've started doing now anytime I'm watching a show. Like when I was watching Bridgerton, that was quite tough too. So I had to stop it in the middle of the episode. When you stop something in the middle of the episode, there's usually a dip in the emotions. There's usually a dip in the pace of the episode. If you leave it till the end, you know there's going to be a cliffhanger, and you know you're going to have that 5 seconds to decide when it's ticking, you know, next episode coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you have to click very, very quickly away from that. So just start to have a look at if you binge shows and if that's something you want to continue doing. If you do, absolutely fine, continue to go ahead. But I noticed in myself, God, I didn't intend to watch that many episodes in one run, and I did. And we all know a Netflix binge is a thing many of us do, but I did feel like shit afterwards. I did feel really, really tired. And I thought, Cheryl, that was perhaps not the highest and best use of your time. It's okay, we'll just learn from it. But that's something that I just want you to look at as well, in the event that that's something that you want to look at and change. In line with that too, our relationship to fandom. I haven't watched season 3 yet, but I do understand Eddie Munson is quite popular amongst fans. And so when we have relationships to these characters, it's just worth looking at that too, and looking at our relationship to them. Is it something that is getting, you know, obsessive? Are we feeling feelings for them that are actually the feelings we want to feel in our life? If it is, get into the training, Fangirl, the origin story. The details for that are down below. I revamped it at the weekend. I'm really proud of it. I think it's really, really going to help you understand the feelings you feel towards your favourite character and the needs it might be meeting within you. And then if you do want to find a relationship in real life, what that character and how much you love about them, what that might tell you about the types of partners you want in your future. Sometimes when I talk about this, it gets a bit misconstrued and people say, oh, well, the person isn't real. But I know that you get it. I know that you get it. I know that you do. The feelings that you feel for them are real. It's a real feeling. And I'm willing to bet that there's common themes and patterns in the characters that you care about over time. It's not just about, you know, Eddie from Stranger Things, or, I don't know, Captain America from the MCU, or one of the characters from Harry Potter, or whatever it might be. It's not just about that character. Look at the characters you've had strong emotions for at different parts in your journey. And what you can do quite simply is write their names on a piece of paper, on a page in your journal, or a section on your notes app on your phone. Write their names and write 5 or 10 qualities that they have. Do that for each person. And then look at it and start to see if they share any of those qualities in common. I'm willing to bet it's not about their powers or their status, probably. It's more than likely something a little bit deeper. You know, they seem intelligent, they seem like they're caring, they seem like they'd be very, you know, tender and considerate. There's usually something deeper going on. Whether or not those characters, or indeed the celebrities that play them, the actors that play them, whether or not they possess those qualities is not really the point. We're projecting all the time. We all do it. I do it as well. And when we care about these characters, it's just giving us a little bit of information about what we need. And it's always worth looking at that. I'm also not, I'm not telling you what it is you need to do or what it is you need to decide. That's always up to you. You know, when I work with clients, that one of the questions we start the sessions with is, what's your outcome? Where do you want to be by the end of this session? What do you want to get clear on? And that decision is always up to them. It's never my decision. And likewise, you know, with you, I extend that same assumption. It's always up to you what you want to do with this information and what you want your outcome to be. And that's why, you know, I give journaling prompts often, though I don't think I've given any in this video, but often that's why we give the journaling prompts, right? Because it's the way of you finding the answers within yourself, because I have my bias and I have the way that I teach is coloured by, you know, my experience, the way that I've been brought up, things that I've been through, my successes, my failures, my hopes, my dreams, my fears, all of those things, my beliefs. all of the things that I'm saying are coming through my own lens. So it's really important that you're able to take what applies to you and leave the rest. I never expect you to believe and completely take on board every single word that I say, because it's coloured by my own experience. And it's important that even if you do resonate with what I say, that you're able to just take different pieces of it and say, I really resonate with that, or that piece that Cheryl said, I don't know, I'm not sure what that meant, or it didn't really, I didn't really get it, or actually don't believe that, I actually disagree. That's perfect. I think it's really dangerous when people in my position will tell you things and expect you to take on board absolutely everything. I think you've got to use your own discernment. That's really important. So yeah, bonus point 6 was just about our streaming services and our relationship to them, and how it can be tough to stop watching. I had that experience myself. And then our relationship to fandom and our relationship to these characters, and sometimes our desire to escape into a world that might feel a little bit safer than the world that we're in, even though the Stranger Things world seems quite dark and quite risky. But sometimes we want an escape hatch, because things in this life, in this world, can feel very difficult and stressful, and it's understandable. It's completely understandable given what you've been through. So that is everything. I hope you enjoyed this, Luana. I hope this was interesting for you. And again, I'm sorry for having took so long, and thank you for your patience with this. I hope that you took something from the video. If you do have any requests for me, if you're watching this and you would like me to cover a specific series on Netflix, would be ideal, because I have that subscription at the moment, then just let me know. You can email me, cheryl@cherylmuir.com, or pop a comment down below. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time on Love and Fandom. And remember, you are absolutely worthy of love. Bye for now.